Good evening, friends and active citizens of Bengaluru. I can see a lot of familiar faces here working on the various causes of our city. I would like to welcome all of you today to our webinar. The topic is reintroducing water conservation in Bengaluru city. And of course, before we start, I would like to share that an update on my personal friend that many of you must be already knowing that I'm now part of NBF, and I'm excited and glad to be working with all of you in our city to celebrate, protect, and partner with all of you in NBF also. A small brief of Namma Bengaluru Foundation, as we all know, is a non-profit organization founded by our chairman, Sri Rajiv Chandrasekhar, MP, for working towards Bengaluru, a model city, with well-planned infrastructure, well-laid out neighborhood community models, and people-driven governance measures. We aim to voice of the people, a voice that to be heard for Bengaluru to become a truly global city. As we all know, we have played a major role in the past, releasing our city from a lot of several development and environmental issues. And as you all know, Namma Bengaluru started way back in 2009 and aspires to be the champion of change for a better Bangalore, which is livable, inclusive, and also responsibly governed. As voice of the citizens, NBF empowers and creates platform to scale individual contributions to generate sustainable and impactful improvements in the city. So the three main principles that we are looking at 2021 and after a post-COVID year is to celebrate, protect, and partner. In our mission includes strengthening and supporting the institutions and individuals alike by building and nurturing partnerships. And that's why we have this particular webinar in our first series that we are planning from this financial year, that water is the most precious gift of nature. And today we have with us some experts who have been instrumental in bringing change in their spaces of work in water conservation. I would like to introduce you to the panelist of today, and I'd like to introduce you to Mr. S. Vishwanath, who's a water conservation expert. He is a civil engineer and an urban planner by qualification. He is an adjunct faculty at the Asim Premji University, and he leads the Biomi Environmental Trust, which he has been working on issues of sustainable water and sanitation. Also, he's been an advisor at RGM, a trust providing grants for water and sanitation projects in India. He's also the ex-Secretary General of the International Rainwater Catchment Systems Association, a global organization of rainwater academics and professionals. He's also a trustee in Gram Vikas, an NGO working in rural area and development of health and education and water facilities. And as we all know, he's been an architect of some of the best designs in sustainable water and energy design. We also have with us Mr. V. Ramprasad. Ram sir has been also working in the development of lakes and ponds. And as we all know, he's been working with, he's a co-founder of Friends of Lakes and has been on the field from 2011, working with about 22 lakes within the city of Bangalore. He's a co-founder of the Federation of Bangalore Lakes and also a member of the Water Institute of Bangalore University. He is also an SWM expert and also an advisor on the board of governments like Jammu and Kashmir, Jharkhand, and also he consults with the Karnataka State Pollution Control Board and also the zonal coordinator for our BBMP Dasrali zone. So I welcome both of them today, and I wish that we will have a great session. And I request all the participants to ask all your questions in the chat box, and we will take it up in the Q&A after our panelists have finished their discussion. So now I please welcome Mr. Vishwanath to share his thoughts with us today on conservation of water and also rainwater harvesting. Over to you, Vishwanath sir.
Thank you. So the way I see it is I'll be speaking for about 15 minutes maximum. I'll just lay out certain key issues and challenges for Bangalore And Ram will continue obviously with lakes and wells. And so because we both work very closely together, so I'm sure that there won't be any overlap, that Ram's will be only a continuation. So I have some photographs to share with the audience because many of you would already know the problem, but I'd like to bring to light certain things which I think are important from my personal point of view. And we can just figure out whether it actually is important or not. And we can have a discussion around that. So let me start to share the screen, and the screen is visible, Vinod, right? So I can start, right?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So also let me check the time, so I don't want to go too long. So we are subject in Bangalore to something called the tyranny of small decisions. What's happened is, as the city has been rapidly expanding, we've been taking sort of band-aid measures to tide over immediate problems, and that has in itself caused a large-scale problem, as we see with our lakes, as we see with solid waste management and transportation and all that. And the tyranny of small decision is something to be recognized and to be addressed through institution building and governance building. And that's the point that I would want to make as we go along, right? So one of the things that I would like to share with this audience of ours is the profound influence the drought of 1876 to 1878 had on the city of Bangalore. Not often discussed, but this 3 years of drought dried up the famous 1,000 lakes of Bangalore. There was no water at all. People flocked from all across to the city because the city was the place where food rations were being given, and nearly 100,000 people died. 100,000 people died in the kingdom of Mysore, and most of the death occurred in Bangalore, right? And the lakes and wells, which were famous for providing us water, we learned with this experience that it was not resilient enough for 3 years drought. So when we in our imaginations now think of our lakes as sources of water for Bangalore, let's imagine that with 2.5 lakh population, the 1,000 lakes, which were there unpolluted, Belandur, Vartur, name it, all of them, were unable to support that population, and a lack of people died. That caused the city fathers then to take the decision to go to Hesarghatta on the Arkavati River and to bring in pipe water supply in 1894 to 1896. So remember, the lakes and wells cannot manage large-scale droughts or continuous droughts, and therefore we need to depend on a reliable source of water, which was identified by Sir M. Visvesvaraya as the river Kaveri. So nothing new about it, it's an old decision. The other sort of narrative which comes across in Bangalore is somehow that we are taking away the river water from rural areas and depriving people of their just share of water. Now, the Kaveri Tribunal has given a decision and the Supreme Court has given a decision, and Karnataka has been allocated 284.75 thousand million cubic feet. Let's just remember the number 284.75. Bangalore currently takes 19 TMC feet of water, right? And in addition, it will take another 11 TMC, total 30 TMC feet. So Bangalore currently is taking 6.6% of Karnataka's allocation of Kaveri water and supporting 50% of Karnataka's population in the Kaveri basin. Right? So the city is actually doing way better in terms of efficiency for the water that it uses based on a population criteria. And the population is only growing. The percentage of population in Bangalore in the Karnataka basin will only keep on increasing. And I'll also point out that 6.67% or the 11% is not the net consumption, but the wastewater which the city generates will be used completely, and therefore the net consumption will be less than 2% of Karnataka's allocation of Kaveri basin. The city generates a GDP of billions of dollars. 65% of the GDP of the state of Karnataka supports the social infrastructure of the whole state with this critical water from the Kaveri, which is just 6.67%. So let's not feel guilty about the water that we use in the city. Within the city, we can do a much better job of equity and of use in terms of efficiency. What is the projected demand for water? So let's just log in on the numbers for 2050, and just as an attention thing. Low is 3,000 million liters per day. High is 3,693. Let's say it's 3,700 MLD. That's the projection according to a report which the consultants of BWS has been done. This is 2050, mind you, 3,700 MLD, right? So what's available to the city? From the Kaveri, we will get 1,450 plus 775, which is about 2,275. 3,000 million liters is falling on the city as rainwater. From groundwater, a conservative low figure is 400 MLD, and wastewater will be about 970 million liters per day. So resource is not an issue for Bangalore at all. It's the management of the resource, the distribution of the resource, the equity of the resource, which is what I want to emphasize, which is the critical issue in Bangalore. Resource is not a problem. Let's not worry about the taps running dry or the city becoming another Cape Town. If we are prudent and if we are focused, that will never happen. Why? Because the 4 dams on the Kaveri in Karnataka, the 4 big dams, the KRS, Kabini, Hemavati, and Harangi, of which I show only 2, KRS and Kabini, even now have enough water for 1 more year for the city of Bangalore. 1 more year. What we need is about 1.8 TMC feet and 3.6 till the next monsoons come. So there's plenty of water in the KRS and Kabini for the population of the city of Bangalore, as well as the drinking water requirements of all towns and cities and villages in the Kaveri Basin. There's no resource shortage. I have to re-emphasize that particular one. And Bangalore is uniquely placed. All of us know that water has to be pumped up 95 kilometers, 300 meters up from the water flow from the Kabini and KRS reservoir from Tikkehalli, which makes it the costliest water in India. 95 rupees a kiloliter is the production cost. Remember, 95 rupees a kiloliter. Let's remember that. And that's because of the energy cost in pumping it to the city of Bangalore through these kind of pipelines. Re-emphasizing the point, the storage capacity is 110 TMC feet of all the dams, the 4 dams that we have, Harangi, Hemavati, KRS, and Kabini, and we're using 30 TMC feet over the whole year, right? Eventually. So it's not really the major challenge. Accesses. What's the access? We have 1 million connections in Bangalore area. Now, one connection usually refers to at least 2 households, right? Because we have a ground plus 1 kind of construction at a minimum in almost all houses. Even flats getting a connection will get only 1 connection. Even if there are 30 or 40 flats, it will be counted as 1 connection by the BWSSB. So roughly 2 million households or 10 million people are connected to the BWSSB network, right? Out of approximately 13 million people. So a significant large number of population is connected to the BWSSB network. We should make sure that it is 100% connection. What is needed is the democratization of water. What we need to do is to discuss at ward committee level, how many households are there in the ward, how many of them are connected to the BWSSB, both in terms of water and sanitation, and what will be done to get to that 100% number, right? That is the democratization, that is the discussion that we first need. The second discussion, of course, is do we get adequate water to all the houses at all? But first, let's get the connection, and then let's discuss about the water coming in through the pipes. So the critical constraint has been the 7 CMCs, 1 TMC, and 110 villages added to Bangalore city in the periphery, where the connections are still moving very slowly. In the connection, the key barrier is not the cost of water, it's the connection charge. The connection charges are astronomical numbers because the BWSSB's finances are kaput. They are unable to recover even O&M cost fully, let alone capital cost, and create a sinking fund. If we do not look at the financial stability of the BWSSB, make sure that it functions as a financially robust organization with human resources capable of delivering infrastructure, we will forever be struggling with water shortages. And we've never discussed that the BWSSB is financially broke because water is subsidized to each one of us. Every household which takes 20,000 liters of water in Bangalore, domestic connection, gets a subsidy of 1,600 rupees a month. Can you believe it? 1,600 rupees a month is the subsidy to a domestic household which gets a domestic connection through the BWSSB. This is simply unaffordable, and we'll have to figure a way out as to how to manage the system more productively, right? So let me quickly push through the other sets of argument. Groundwater is under crisis, A, because of pollution, and B, because recharge is only 3 to 8% of rain. We need to push the recharge into the groundwater much more significantly through individual rooftop rainwater harvesting, where we pick rooftop rainwater, filter it, and push it into the ground, and through the rehabilitation of lakes, where clean water will be in the lakes and the lakes will recharge the groundwater. So the number has to go from 3 to 8% to 50 to 60%. That would be an ideal condition for managing groundwater in the city of Bangalore. And rainwater harvesting, one of the things that we need to put our attention to is that urban flooding is caused because of buildings coming up on every side and the runoff from the site increasing from 15% to 90%, right? So unbuilt, a site would only let 15% go into the storm drain. Built, the site pushes out 90 to 100% of the rainwater. So therefore, the site has to get responsible for the water that it pushes into the system and causes flooding, and it should either harvest it or recharge it into the ground. And therefore, the policy is there and the bylaws are there. We need to ramp up the implementation of this policy. It's a most progressive policy, and we need to pay attention to get this number up to 1 million to 1.5 million, if possible, quickly. And so these are some of the numbers, and these are not very important, but we are lucky that the rainfall distribution in Bangalore is pretty even. April and May are rainy months when the rest of India is sweltering under heat, and September, October, August, September, October are the other rainy months. So it's a well-distributed rainfall. We're not significantly using the rain efficiently in our lakes and in our homes, and we should need to push that up, right? So rainwater harvesting systems are simple. You can store the water. In groundwater, there's another advantage that Bangalore has. There's a particular community called the Manvadar who have excellent skills in digging wells, desilting wells, deepening wells, and making recharge wells for both wells as well as bore wells. This community does not have a livelihood which is sufficient for them. They're available, they have the skills. So if you're able to tie their livelihood skills to the water resilience of the city with rainwater harvesting and groundwater recharge, they will get a job, they will earn a livelihood, and the city will get water resilience. So that's something which is pretty unique to Bangalore, which we should seize upon. And what I'm showing are photographs of recharge wells and old wells which have been cleaned up by this community, right? And so this is many citizens are doing this. We need to push this and get more such recharge wells done, and these old wells protected, right? So these old wells need to be desilted, protected, recharged, so that they're back in business because they're a water heritage for us, right? So that's what we need to do. And if linked to lakes, you'll get this kind of an approach where the wells are full and the wells can give you water. Remember that the well water is 1 rupee a kiloliter. The Kaveri water is 95 rupees a kiloliter. So there's a huge cost benefit if we recharge our aquifers, shallow aquifers. Many layouts are doing it. We need to ramp up and make sure Rainbow Drive is one critical one. What Rainbow Drive in Sarjapura Road did was it banned private borewells. It dug community borewells, shared the water, metered it, and put a tariff on it, made sure that there was a wastewater treatment plant, and all the treated wastewater was reused by the whole community. Now, there's no reason why through legal and institutional mechanisms, we cannot empower the resident welfare associations, the gated community associations, and the apartment associations to be able to manage their water like Rainbow Drive did. Communitize groundwater, recharge groundwater, treat wastewater, and reuse it, right? So this is something that we can take up quickly. But remember, the key is metering, and the key is drawing up a water balance, and the key is pricing, right? Without pricing, we will not get any conservation of water. The pricing can kick in as an increasing block tariff, which says that beyond 20,000 liters, you will have to pay a really robust sum, something like 120 rupees a kiloliter, so that you economically depress the consumption of water. And the money so collected should be reused in recharging with rainwater or treating wastewater, right? So that's the key there, drawing up a water balance and understanding demand and managing demand. And this can be done not only at a gated community level, but at a city level also. And so that's something that we need to do, is to drop a water balance and to drop appropriate pricing, right? And some of the other examples, I'm leaving it to Ram. I'm just showing you some photographs. Wells are being rejuvenated in Cubbon Park. They are now providing 1 lakh liters of water, open wells, and they're being recharged. Ram will talk about that. Wheel and Axle plant has done a marvelous job of recharging its rainwater and reviving its open wells. And these open wells provide 5 lakh liters of water a day, sufficient for them to be independent of the BWSSB for the factory purpose. And then the forest there has been rejuvenated. There are certain institutional issues. Open wells and bore wells are charged at 100 rupees a kiloliter. We need to figure out a way of not punishing for good behavior, but punishing for bad behavior and rewarding good behavior. You cannot have people recharging an open well and the well yielding water, and they have to pay a fine of 100 rupees a kiloliter, 100 rupees a month per the well. So that is being taken up with the BWSSB. Lake revivals, the struggle which communities and civil society organizations and the courts are putting it is phenomenal. But we have some striking examples like Jakkur Lake, where when the lake has been revived through treated wastewater, the sewage treatment plant produces enough sludge to be sold as manure, provides livelihoods for fishermen, the groundwater in the surrounding areas is recharged, and the whole system becomes stable. This is a partnership between the BWSSB, the BDA, BBMP, and citizens groups. These and the fishermen, who are the livelihood earners in the lake. These are models which are available, which need to be ramped up to other lakes wherever found appropriate, right? We need to do that. BEL has already put in money, 14 crores with its CSR funds, and put up a sewage treatment plant and is rejuvenating Doddabomasantra Lake, same as the Jakkur model. So CSR funds can also be deployed strategically by companies which are in Bangalore to rejuvenate lakes, to treat wastewater, and to bring back livelihoods and groundwater in Bangalore, right? So the key challenge for us, and I'll stop at this one, is the absence of an urban water and sanitation policy, which lays out a course as to what we want to do with our groundwater, with our rainwater, with our pipe water, and with our wastewater. Institutional coordination, as you all know, is really a big challenge in Bangalore. The legal framework for managing groundwater, for managing wastewater is still evolving. We need to make it robust, and institutional capacities. This is a huge challenge. The BWSSB right now has only 60% of the allotted workforce operating with them. You cannot have a war won with the army ill-prepared. The army for us is the BWSSB, the Bangalore Water Supply and Sewerage Board, and we need to strengthen and make sure that the army is both financially robust and institutionally robust for us to be able to address the challenge. But let me end in a positive note for you, Vinod, that this is a city which has shown a can-do spirit. And there are enough and more examples here to tell us and to show us the path. It's only getting our act together with our institutions and with civil society together to crack this problem. And I'm sure it will be done in the coming 5 to 10 years. Right? So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share these thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vishwanath sir. I think that was a very interesting with a lot of facts, and especially for a city like Bangalore and a metropolitan like Bangalore, and with the needs of water, which is quite scary when we see those demand, and to be equitable in terms of water distribution to the different, levels of society also is one thing that we need to look at. I thank you very much for all those insights that you shared with us. And also now I'd like to call upon Mr. Ram Prasad, Ram sir, to share with us his thoughts. So then we can get into the Q&A. After Ram sir finishes his presentation. Yeah. Ram sir, are you there?
Yeah, you can hear me now?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation and thank you for the introduction. And I think so already Vishwanath sir has already taken you through the whole thing as how Bangalore is and what Bangalore was, and from where we have started looking at even to bring in water, and how we have taken so many years how the Bangalore has gone through with different water histories and other thing. It is important for us to know the history, because end of the day we don't want to keep on repeating the same mistakes what we have been doing before. So to know history and then to really get the facts in place is something that has to happen. And thank you, Vishwanath sir, as usual. This thing is you have put everything in place for me. And from here I would like to continue on this thing. First, let me talk to you about one of the things is that the rainwater harvesting, especially through recharge wells. Why I'm talking about what I am talking about.
Anyhow, let her come. Okay, I don't want very cold.
Hey, Ramakant sir, can you please mute, please? I think you are unmuted.
Yeah, yes, muted. So the recharge wells that actually Vishwanath sir showed about, which are the Manwater community, which has been part of the water resilience of Bangalore city, which has done a tremendous job for centuries and has been trying to be, to be helpful in this part also. The reason, one of the things what we have seen is the citizens have forgotten that many a times there is water right under your feet. It is just not that you need to depend upon other this thing, but you can look at that one. But again, here the question comes is, whose water is it anyway? That the water that is right under feet, whether can I use it, or whether that is also something that should be democratized. And but at the same time, many people who are commercial claim that water, it belongs to me. But at the same time, when there is a community, that's what you will see in Rainbow Drive, that once you, if the same Rainbow Drive was trying to, start harnessing for, themselves and other things, you would not find that, water conservation and the way that Rainbow Drive has taken it forward. The secret over there is that it is a community which is, harnessing the groundwater and, trying to have a good amount of, water conservation and a proper way of utilizing the water. So here, again, taking Rainbow Drive as example. Now, another example, which is right in the heart of the city, is Cubbon Park, where there are 7 traditional open wells. And if you see, there are recharge wells of around 73 numbers. And those wells are the ones which also push in the kind of water in. And not that we are very sure that it is recharging the same discharge well and other things, but at the same time, you will see that even today at a very hot summer time, the water is at 10 feet on the top. So somewhere this water, what is available, also needs to be taken into account, because just like Vishwanath sir told, the amount of money that you will spend on taking this water is not even a rupee or 1.5 rupee max to max with all your electricity and other things. We can find even other methods of just having a solar motor which would pull out that water and give it to you, where it will become even more lesser the money. So look, to see this one is also kind of water conservation. Where we mean water conservation here is that it is a responsibility of every Bangalorean to see to it that whatever way possible, if you can give a livelihood to a Manwater community family, and see to it that you are digging a recharge well wherever possible. Maybe your house you are not able to do, because I have got many people calling and telling, we are not able to do that in our house because it is very small or we can't do. Okay, try to do it in a public space, because now even BBMP and everybody are offering the public spaces also. You can have your rainwater harvesting somewhere. I think every citizen should feel happy if they are able to put one well in their family name. So that is where we can start off that, and this work should be given to a Manwater community family, which becomes a livelihood for that family. And this is where it will take a turn, because every person. So Vishwanath sir and Biome and Friends of Lakes, we are doing this thing known as Million Recharge Well campaign. The Million Recharge Well is if this much of recharge. Now, one more thing is, if you would see, then many of them are asking, we have got such big open area, like, maybe presently we are doing in certain army-based open areas. And when we saw that the upper soil, that is the top soil, practically 4.5 feet to 5 feet is so strong and so badly compacted that there is no water percolation happening there. So let us not think that because there's an open area, there's water percolation happening there. Rather, there's a good runoff happening because the top layer has become practically like cement. So even if you see an area, which you may see it as an area which is recharging, or you may think it is recharging, may not be doing that job because it is not happening. That is where the concept of that it has to be at least 3 by 20 kind of a hole. And that is on the top, you put a proper nice slab which can take good amount of weight. At the same time, all the annular gap between the ring and this thing is fully packed with stone aggregates. And then on the top, you have a silt trap and other things for the good water to enter into that space. This has also acted as a very good flood mitigation structure. The reason is we have seen that in Cubbon Park, wherever we put was the area where it was getting flooded. And today there is no much of flooding happening over there. And that is where we saw it in Pina also, where we had put up another few more wells in Pina and Rest area, where we wanted to start the groundwater is contaminated. We know that very well, but we want to start diluting the contamination that has happened. So when wells were dug over there are companies who came and told that this time, even though there was good rain in 2020, their areas were not, their factory was not flooded. So that people are now ready to sponsor a few more wells in their areas where the flooding doesn't happen. The same thing with Prakash Nagar and Gayatri Nagar, where the government itself has put recharge wells. So either you can do it, that would be the first thing as a responsible citizen, because this is, even though this is also a law of rainwater harvesting, but as a person, one who is a citizen of Bangalore, if we are looking at real conservation of water, one of the first thing that we need to do is that as me, as a person, we will have to see that if I can dig one recharge well in my name or in my family name and keep it over there. This would be the first thing. The second ones I will immediately jump to, because Vishwanath sir has already done the other part. So I will directly jump to lake conservation. So the next part is lakes. Even lakes to act as a good recharge structure, or the water that is getting collected in the lakes, we will have to start looking at how this can become a good rainwater structure, or a structure which is also, certain lakes are known as flood mitigation lakes. So what does a particular lake mean to the particular community? And to do this, there is one small process which we are doing that is known as lake vision document. In the lake vision document, sit with the community, sit with maybe a few experts, and try to figure out what and all can my lake do for the area, for the community, for the people those who are living around, and accordingly see to it that the lake rejuvenation happens. So here what happens is, the whole thing is, I'm telling you, this should not be only, it should be citizens who are leading this, but at the same time take the help of some experts, so that like certain things is calculations. So if there are like many of them are there, take anybody's help and see to it that it is done properly, engineering wise and environmentally. That is very, very important, because quite a few of them now what we are seeing is lake rejuvenation, just scraping off a little bit of soil on the top may not help in trying to percolate the water into the ground. We may talk that the lake is percolating, but may not percolate, or there are chances that you may have to take out the full silt or take out certain things for the water to percolate. So even though you may see a big lake in front of you, you may start seeing that very nearby or even a little bit far also, you may not find water. You may be going deep down. At the same time, this is two things. There is shallow aquifer and there is deep aquifer. So sometimes there is water in the shallow aquifer. So we have to see that, open wells, which have been a lifeline and which talks to you, like a borewell talks to you only once when you dig the borewell, and the next time it talks when it is gone dead. It doesn't talk to you in between at all. You will not even know whether there is less water or more water, but that is not the way that the open well does. The open well talks to you on a daily basis. Every day you go and see that one, either it is going down or it is going up. You come to know today the water is going down, so let me not spend too much of water. I may have to conserve water. So that gets into our mind. So open well is something that what we have seen really talks to you on a daily basis. And the lake also talks to you on a daily basis. So these are the structures which talk to you on a daily basis. But at the same time, I would not tell that borewell does that for us, because you don't see that what is happening. And we know that many of us, if it is not seeing, means it is not within the mind also. So let us not get to that one. If you are seeing or not seeing, there may be water crisis that you may see. You may come up with. We don't want to get that. As Vishwanath sir was before also in this thing telling that, not that we as Bangaloreans are not going to run away run away out of water and all those kind of things. And for that one of the things to do is see that our recharge of the groundwater increases exponentially, and that is to have at least minimum of 1 million recharge wells across the city, across different places, so that what we can see is a good recharge happening of the rainwater, number one. Number two, all the lakes in the city act as a good rainwater harvesting structure also. Apart from being social, apart from being a nice place to be there, apart from being all the other things, or maybe even a flood mitigation lake or whatever it is, but at the same time, to see to it that the lake acts as a good water harvesting. That means water holding capacity also becomes a very, very important part of this. That means the more water you hold, the more water you push down, the more kind of water security that you will have as groundwater, which is right under your feet. And I don't want to talk about commercialization of water in this particular thing, because here we really want to I won't really impress on that our duty as citizens, our duty as something that we ourselves can do, not that we'll have to depend upon somebody and other things. We ourselves can do by our own willpower and our own interest, is to do this kind of, apart from the conservation that you may be taking steps at home, like maybe a aerator or so many other things. And again, Vishwanath sir has already told, water metering in every apartment, water metering has changed drastically the way that people are consuming water. The moment there is water metering that is happening, individual house water metering happening, and we have seen that the whole, they understand that what is the kind of water they're using, and we have seen people are attracted towards water conservation, and they do some amount of water conservation. So these are the few things. Maybe I've repeated something Vishwanath sir has told, and why I'm repeating is that are the most important part, which we simply forget, and we are looking at other bigger kind of PR kind of sometimes water conservation ideas that come up, which we in so many years of experience are not seen much of result, as much as the result and livelihood that we are seeing in a recharge well, as much as a good amount of this thing we are seeing in a lake rejuvenation, where we can really see the structures. Same way, if you go to Kaban Park, there is behind Wadiyar statue, there is a small pond. But the pond has been converted into a small, there's a recharge well right in the middle of the pond. And you will see how this water, which is practically it accumulates around 1 lakh of liter of water in around 2 or 3 rains, that's all. And this whole water just within 7 to 8 days gets into the ground. And that is where we are seeing that a pond also or a structure like that, pond and lakes also, at a certain time can really become good water recharge structures, and can be one of the ideas that we can go forward and see that how we take this lake rejuvenation as. And any lake rejuvenation or anything, please let it be with the consultation of experts or with engineering and environmental standards being followed. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Ram Sam. That was really a beautiful explanation and a wonderful experience of doing this. And I'd like to congratulate him and Vishwanath sir for actually, giving us their time, and as well as coming over and actually sharing their in-depth knowledge and the expertise that they have been doing for over years. Now I open this session up to questions. So I would like to maybe, start with Mrs. Usha Medappa. Is Ms. Usha there, ma'am? Usha, ma'am, if you have a question and if you can address it. Usha, can you unmute Mrs. Usha Medappa?
She's unmuted.
Okay.
Yeah. My issue is that in CBD area itself, there are hundreds of bore wells, and there is no one to stop it, and the sale of underground water is rampant, and every road within our area here, Victoria layout, we have many people selling water. And is there no authority that will help us in this situation?
Yeah. Usha, ma'am, I think.
I take that and quickly answer it to Ms.
Yes,
Usha?
please. Yes.
Yeah. One of the things, Ms. Usha, is that there is, in theory, a Groundwater Act and the rules and regulations notified, which means that if you're going to exploit water commercially, when you're going to sell it from tankers, then you have to take permission from the Groundwater Authority. You have to stick a meter to the bore well, and you have to pay 5 rupees a kiloliter once the permission is given to the Groundwater Authority. And like I was pointing out, the Groundwater Authority is so weak. It has so few people, and there are about 400,000 to 500,000 bore wells that they're completely unable to do any form of justice to regulating groundwater. Correct. So we as a group, as citizens group, you as individuals, and we as a group now have to put pressure on the government to make sure that the Groundwater Authority takes responsibility for the groundwater in Bangalore. It cannot allow this unbridled exploitation of groundwater for commercial purpose. If people are taking it for domestic purpose, that is fine. But if you're going to sell it, then there has to be some regulations for it, right?
Yeah, because here, I'm just telling you my personal experience. I have a borewell in my area, in my home. Okay. That is what I'm using for myself right now. But we have like 2 roads away from my left and right. We have people selling water from morning till night, 24/7.
Yeah.
And there is no one I can talk to or, get help from for stopping this is what makes me feel very sad.
So you must write to the Groundwater Authority and you must take it up with them, and you should push
Groundwater,
it.
Is it?
Groundwater Authority, GWA, Groundwater Authority. It's located in Miller's Tank right now. They've shifted their office. They're located
Miller's Tank. Okay.
Yeah. So if you search for it, you'll be able to go get their address and number, and we'll try and get it to you sometime later.
Okay.
So please do take it up with them, and it's only public pressure which will force them to start to act.
Yes, because the reason why I have come down strong is because they are next door to me, and they were doing it 24/7. Now I've stopped them for the night. I've warned them that between 10 and 6 they cannot do any work here because it's very noisy and they are like kind of adjacent to a residential layout. So I'm using that as a reason, and I continuously call the cops at night to stop them. For the past 1 week, it's working. So I just wanted to, share my sadness and difficulty
Yes,
on this
yes.
issue. So
Sure.
this
Thank you, ma'am.
must
We'll
be
also support you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
True, ma'am.
Thank you very much, sir.
Sure,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Sure, ma'am. Yeah. Thank you, Vishnu sir. Next, can we actually go to Mr. Ramakant sir? Please unmute Ramakant sir.
Ramakant sir, can you please unmute yourself?
I just wanted to ask
Yeah.
about this sewage water treatment. If something could be done, at least for rough purposes, we could have used it. So much sewage water now is going, many people are not having STPs and all that. That is all going into the lakes also and spoiling it. So what is your opinion on that, Ram or Vishwanath, for anybody? This is a question, please. This is very prominent in Whitefield area, where there are plenty of apartments and all that. Many people are leaving the water in the lakes.
Ram, you go, and then
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
You listen, sir?
Yes, sir, I will go first, sir, on this matter. Sir, first of all, you should have seen that there is presently there are lakes, that is especially lakes in Kolar and lakes in Nanekal, and quite a few are getting treated water. So that there is a government program itself wherein slowly treated water is going into areas where it will be used for agriculture purposes, or maybe even for groundwater recharging purposes. So already there's a huge program going on in this matter, that whether treated water can be taken into this kind of things. Now again, sir, to your question, the problem that we are seeing is that many apartments are not even treating their water and letting out sewage. They are supposed to treat the water. We know that the treatment cost is so high in many cases that they don't want to treat the water at all. But at the same time, if they are treating the water and if they are able to utilize it at least for gardening and for flushing purposes and few other purposes, they will be able to utilize only around 40 to 50%. So remaining 50%, even though treated, has to be put into a nala, which is again going and joining with another sewage. And sometimes this sewage is now fed into another STP, which is by BWSSB STP. So there is a huge waste of money and other things happening. Somewhere, as Vishwanath sir already told in one of his slides, that institutionally we need to sit together, and this needs to be there is organizationally, everybody has to sit together and figure out what needs to be done when a particular apartment is doing a good job. Like I think so, Usha ma'am is there, Usha Rajagopalan is there, and they have worked on this kind of a thing where Puttanhalli Lake could get treated water and other things. So same way, lake, if the water is good, can get better water rather than getting and putting this into the sewage, and that sewage is now entering into this thing. Rather have a direct connection to the lake itself and see to it that they get good water, whatever it needs to be. Like what are the norms, whatever you need to put checks and balances, let us have the checks and balances. But at the same time, let that be like when we are now giving that, and there is a case which went to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court has given a green signal for this. So let us look at how this can be done in a better way, and how it can be done in such a way that there is, one thing that what we have seen in our past experiences, most of the lakes, some or the other, most of our drains are flowing with sewage. Trying to get pure, good, nice rainwater in our drain is practically has not been possible in most of the lakes. Maybe somewhere, even 20 kilometers away from Bangalore are the lakes which may be getting some amount of like this kind of water. But very rarely we see lakes. Like we had one lake known as Singapore Lake, in which we were getting good water, but only just again 4 or 5 months back, we started one sewage line, suddenly new sewage line started coming inside. So even though we have areas where we could actually see to it that there's a good catchment and we could get good rainwater, there also we have kind of not been able to successfully see to it that only rainwater enters into the lake. Near also, and that's why now kind of, if you ask me, sewage treatment plant to see to it that the lake survives. For the survival of a lake, sewage treatment plant for the capacity of that lake is something that maybe we will have to see. And that example is, again, you are seeing Jakkur, and now you are seeing Doddabamasandra, where a company under CSR has put in their STP and are trying to see to it that, those, good quality treated water is, sent into the lake. And this has already been now working for the past now nearly 4-5 months. So slowly we are seeing how the lake is now getting, coming to, it is going through its rejuvenation process. So there is a process that it has to go through certain things. So it is going through all those difficult times and other things. But one thing is, yes, already these experiments are going on. Already there is a thing happening. At the same time, if the apartment feels that their water is there, which is good treated water, and if they can see to it that this water is used for all the plantation near outside there or wherever it is, then one more things I think so, Vishwanath sir is told, one of this thing, that it can be, if at all, if their water can be used for construction, please, then, somewhere we are trying to use the water, like, one of the things of UN's, this thing was to use a drop of water at least twice. That was an idea that was given. At least try to use a drop of water 2 times in whenever you are doing that. So that is one more thing that can be taken, and see that, this treated water is not pushed into another nala, which is having sewage in it. So that should not happen, because already you are now putting so much of money in trying to treat that water. So that is the thing. If that can happen, then a lot of apartments can, approach Karnataka Pollution Control Board, put the checks and balances, and see to it that water can be pushed into the nearest lake, which can be, good at percolation and other things, and use the water at least in another time within the city itself.
Due to highlight, is there any policy in BWSSB that direction-wise STPs can be installed? Because many people want to avoid STPs in their apartments because of the cost and all that business. So take that water and use it for the purposes. And that whatever according to the apartment, you can be charged also. So much water we are treating, so you are to pay this. Something like that. Is there any policy or suggestion? Vishwanath sir is in the highest committee and all that. My suggestion to Vishwanath sir, is there any policy like that?
Yeah, there is a policy, Mr. Ramakant, that any set of flats more than 20 and with a given area have to have their own sewage treatment plant. This has come from the Ministry of Environment and Forests and has been notified accordingly, right? But we need to revisit that policy because, as Ram pointed out, it's difficult for apartments to run STPs. It's not an easy job. It's only in certain cases that they can run it. And if they're Enlightened Apartment Association, they're able to do it. But otherwise, many apartments find it difficult. And it doesn't make sense if the city infrastructure is there and the city lines can pick up the sewage as to why apartments should be burdened by running a sewage treatment plant, right? So we need to figure a way out. And I think those dialogues are beginning. And I'm sure that Bangalore will find a way out. So, but we'll pick the question later. There is a policy and the policy needs a relook.
Yes. Thank you.
Sir, I am Ramakant here, sir. Ramakant here. Yeah, Vishwanath ಅವರು ರಾಮ್ ಸರ್ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಒಂದು ನೀರಿನ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಬಗ್ಗೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಜೀವನ ಎಷ್ಟು ಬದಲಾಗಿ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ. ನಾವು ಗಾಳಿ ಮತ್ತು ನೀರಿಗೆ ಈ ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಕಾನ್ಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕೂತಿದ್ವಿ. ಹಿಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು, ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ನೀರು ದುಡ್ಡು ಕೊಟ್ರೆ ನೀನು ಮುಂದಿನ ಜನ್ಮ ಕಾಗೆ ಜನ್ಮ ಅಂತ. ನೋಡಿ ಎಂತ ದಿವಸಗಳು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಕಮಿಂಗ್ ಟು ದ ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್, ವಾಟ್ ಐ ವಾಂಟ್ ದಿಸ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಈಸ್, Usha madam has also suggested about the water mafia, tank mafia and other things. As a welfare association of HSR, we are trying our level best to control over on that. And even waterborne diseases are increasing because of this tanker water. We don't know which type of water they are supplying to different areas. There's one point. And Vishwanath sir has told about in a ward committee where we can settle the issues. Hardly we have discussed a lot of problems regarding Kaveri water and other things. These problems are not taken. We are making a follow-up about this thing. Third point is, recently one more launch has taken place about investment of 170 crores. The Raja Kalve in some Koramangala, some other place, the beautification and other things. Instead of that, they had invested improvement of our Vrishabhavati project. It have been far better for a regeneration of water to the Bangalore. ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾತಾಡ ಕೂತ್ರೆ ನನಗೆ ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ತಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಬರುತ್ತಂದ್ರೆ, ಒಂದು ದಿವಸ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಂದ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಹೊರಟು ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ ನೀರಿಲ್ದೆ. ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ಲೆವೆಲ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಎಷ್ಟು ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ಬಾವಿಗಳ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಿ, ಕೆರೆಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಿ. ಬಾವಿ ಕೆರೆಗಳಷ್ಟೇ ನಮಗೆ ನೀರಿಗೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿದ್ದು. ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಅಗೇನ್ಸ್ಟ್ ನೇಚರ್ ಹೋಗಿ ಬಾವಿಗಳು ಒಣಗಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೀವಿ, ಕೆರೆಗಳು ಒಣಗಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೀವಿ, ನಮ್ಮ ನೀರುಗಳು ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ವೆಲ್ಗಳ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಗಳು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಿ ನೀವು, ಬೋರ್ವೆಲ್ಗಳು ಹೊಡೆದ್ರೆ 1500 ಫೀಟ್ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ನೀರುಗಳು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ವೆಲ್ಗಳ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಸರ್ ರಾಮ್ ಸರ್ ಕೂಡ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕೆಲವು ಏರಿಯಾಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಇದೆ. ಒಳ್ಳೆ ವಿಚಾರ ಅದು. ನನ್ನ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಸಜೆಷನ್ಸ್ ಏನ್ ಹೇಳೋದಂದ್ರೆ, ಈ ಕೆರೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನೀರುಗಳು ಮಳೆಗಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಿ ಯಾವ ನೀರುಗಳು ಸೇರಿ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ತುಂಬ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಈಗ ಏತ್ ನೀರಾವರಿ ಯೋಜನಾ ಅಂತ ವಿಲೇಜ್ ಲೆವೆಲ್ ಕಡೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಈ ಮಳೆಗಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಮೇನ್ ರಿವರ್ ಇಂದ ತಂದು ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಕೆರೆಗಳಲ್ಲೂ ತುಂಬೋದು. ಆ ಥರದಿಂದ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಕೆರೆಗಳನ್ನು ನೀರು ತುಂಬಿ ಬೇರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಡೆ ವಾಟರ್ ಲೆವೆಲ್ ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಇಂಪ್ರೂವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಬಹುದಾ? ಇದು ಒಂದು ನನ್ನ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಸಜೆಷನ್. ಇದು ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಿಂದ ಮೂವ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಮತ್ತು ವೃಷಭಾವತಿ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅನ್ನು ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಿಂದ ತಗೊಳ್ಬಹುದು. ಮುಂದೆ ಬರುವ ದಿನಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಇರೋರಿಗೆ ಕುಡಿಯೋ ನೀರಿನ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಆಗಬಾರ್ದು. ಅದು ಒಂದೇ ನಮ್ಮ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾದ ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ಸ್. ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಮಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಮಾಹಿತಿಗಳನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟರೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ವಿಶ್ವನಾಥ್ ಅಂಡ್ ರಾಮ್ ಸರ್, ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Nargun sir. Ram sir.
ರಮಾಕಾಂತ್ ಅವರೇ, ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ಲಿ ವಿಶ್ವನಾಥ್ ಸರ್ ಅವರು ಪ್ರಾರಂಭ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ನಮಗೆ ನೀರಿನ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ, ಆ ನೀರು ಸಿಗೋದಿಲ್ವಾ, ಎಷ್ಟು ನಮಗಿದೆ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥದನ್ನ ಅವರ ಫಸ್ಟ್ 4 ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಿ ಮುಗಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಬಹುಶಃ ಇದನ್ನ ಹೌದು ರೀ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಬಹುಶಃ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಈ ಒಂದು ಎದುರಿಸುವ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಇದೆಯಲ್ವಾ, ನೀರಿಲ್ಲ, ನೀರು ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ, ಇದನ್ನ ನಾವು ನಂಬುವುದಿಲ್ಲ. ಇದು ಮಾತ್ರ ನಾಪ್ಕ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಯಾವುದೇ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೂ ನಮ್ಮ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಅಷ್ಟು ರೀಸೈಲೆಂಟ್ ಸಿಟಿ ಅಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ನಂಬಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಜನರು ಅಷ್ಟೇನೆ. ಇವಾಗ ರೀಚಾರ್ಜ್ ನಮ್ದು ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ವಾಟರ್ ರೀಚಾರ್ಜ್ 4%, 5% ಓಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದನ್ನ 20% ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಸಾಕು. ನಮ್ದು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಒಂದು ಅಂತರ್ಜಲದಲ್ಲಿ ನೀರಿರುವ ಸಾಧ್ಯತೆಗಳಿವೆ. ನೀವು ಜಲಕ್ಕೆ ನೀರೇ ಹೋಗದೆ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ನೀವು 1200 ಅಲ್ಲ 2500 ಫೀಟ್ ಹೋದ್ರೂ ನೀರು ಸಿಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದೇ ತರ ಆಳ ಹೋಗ್ತಿದ್ರೆ ನೀರು ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಯಾರು ಗ್ಯಾರಂಟಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದು? ಅದನ್ನು ಯಾವ್ದು ಗ್ಯಾರಂಟಿ ಅಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿ ನೋಡ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು, ನನ್ನ ಒಂದು ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಗನಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಕರ್ತವ್ಯವನ್ನ ಮೊದಲು ನಾನು ಮಾಡಿ ಮುಗಿಸಿದ ನಂತರ ನಾನು ಬೇರೆಯವ್ರ ಹತ್ರ ಕೇಳಿದಾಗ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ ತಪ್ಪು ಇಲ್ವಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ನನ್ನ ಕೆಲಸ ಏನು, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ನೀರನ್ನ ಮೊದಲು ನಾನು ನನ್ನ ಕೆರೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಶೇಖರಣೆ ಮಾಡಿ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಈಗ ಯಾವುದೇ ನಾಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿದ್ರು ನಮಗೆ ಕೊಳಚೆ ನೀರು ಬರುವಂತ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಆಗಿದೆ. ನಾವು ಇಲ್ದಿದ್ರೆ ನಾನು 15 ವರ್ಷ ಆಯ್ತು, 15 ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರೋದು ಕೊಳಚೆ ನೀರು ನಾಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬರದೇ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವೇ ನಮ್ದು ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಆಗಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡಿದೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ 1 ಕಿಲೋಮೀಟರ್ ನಾಲೆ ಇಲ್ಲ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಳಚೆ ನೀರು ಬರದೇ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು. ಇನ್ನು ಎಷ್ಟು ವರ್ಷ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಳಚೆ ನೀರು ಬರದೇ ನೋಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಜಗಳ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕೂತಿರಕ್ಕಾಗತ್ತೆ? ಅದು ಸಾಧ್ಯತೆಗಳು ಕಡಿಮೆ. ಅದು ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ನಾವು ಪರ್ಯಾಯ ಇದಾಗಿ ಏನ್ ನೋಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಅದನ್ನ ಶುದ್ಧೀಕರಣ ಮಾಡಿ ನಾವು ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಂಡ್ ಬರ್ಬೋದಾ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು. ಈಗ ಬೇರೆ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ನೀರನ್ನ ತಗೊಂಡ್ಬಂದು ಅದನ್ನ ಮತ್ತೆ ನಾನು ನನ್ನ ಕೆರೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕಿ, ಒಂದು ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಇವಾಪರೇಷನ್ ಲಾಸ್ ಅಂತಾನು ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಎಲ್ಲೂ ಪರ್ಕಲೇಷನ್ ಅಂತೂ ಹೋಗೋಲ್ಲ. ಪರ್ಕಲೇಷನ್ ಅಂತೂ ಎಷ್ಟು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿದೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ನಾವು ಹೇಳಿದ್ವಲ್ಲ ನಿಮಗೆ 4%, 5% ಪರ್ಕಲೇಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಇದನ್ನ ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದಾಗ, ಒಂದು ಬಾವಿಗಳು, ಯಾಕೆ ನಾವು ಬಾವಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ವಿ, ಅದು 3 ಅಡಿ ಬೈ 3 ಅಡಿ ಡಯಾ ಮತ್ತು 20 ಅಡಿ ಆಳ ಯಾಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ ಅಂತ, ಮಿನಿಮಮ್ 20 ಅಡಿ ಆಳ ಯಾಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಕೆಲವು ಕಡೆ ಆಗಲ್ಲ, ರಾಕ್ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ, ಹಲವಾರು ಕಡೆ ಕೆಲವು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಗಳಾಗ್ಬೋದು. ನಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಹಲವಾರು ಕಡೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ 15 ಅಡಿ ಅಥವಾ 18 ಅಡಿಗೆ ನಿಲ್ಸ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದೇ ಒಂದು, ನೀವು ಇದನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಅಟ್ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ಎಷ್ಟೋ ನೀರನ್ನ, ಒಂದು ಬಾವಿ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಏನಿಲ್ಲರೂ ಸರಾಸರಿ 4000ದಿಂದ 6000 ಲೀಟರ್, ಅಟ್ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ಒಂದು 3-4 ದಿನದಲ್ಲಿ ಅದು ಆ ನೀರು, ಅಥವಾ ಒಂದೊಂದ್ಸಲಿ 1 ವಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ನೀರು ನೀವು ಹಿಂಗೋಗಿ ನಿಮಗೆ ಅಂತರ್ಜಲದಲ್ಲಿ ನೀರು ಹೋಗಿರುವಾಗ ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಒಂದು ಕಡೆ ಆ ನೀರು ನಿಮಗೆ ಸಿಗದೇ ಇರಬಹುದು, ಮತ್ತೆ ಬೇರೆ ಯಾರಿಗಾದ್ರೂ ಸಿಗಬಹುದು ಅದು. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಿರುವಾಗ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಅದು ತುಂಬಾ ಉಪಯುಕ್ತವಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಒಂದು ಕಡೆ ಇದ್ರೆ, ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಮೊದಲು ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಒಂದ್ ಕಡೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು. ನೀವ್ ಹೇಳ್ದಂಗೆ ಬೇರೆ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ನಾವು ನೀರನ್ನ ತಂದು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಇವಾಗ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಸರ್ ಮೊದಲೇ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು, 95 ರೂಪಾಯಿಗಳು 1 ಕಿಲೋ ಲೀಟರ್ಗೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಅಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಇದನ್ನ ಆ 95 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ನೀವು ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಬ, ನಾವು ಆಗೋಷ್ಟು ಅಂತರ್ಜಲದಲ್ಲಿ ತಳ್ಳೋದು ಇನ್ನೂ ಈಸಿ ಅಲ್ವಾ. 600ರಿಂದ 900 mm ಅಷ್ಟು ನೀರು ಮಳೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ. ಸೊ ಯಾವುದು ಎಕನಾಮಿಕಲಿ ವಯಬಲ್ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ ಅಂತ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ, ಇದು ಇನ್ನೂ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕಲಿ ವಯಬಲ್. ಲೋಕಲ್ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಮಚ್ ಮೋರ್ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕಲಿ ವಯಬಲ್ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಪರಿಗಣನೆಗೆ ತಗೋಬೇಕೇ ಹೊರತು, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಹೊರಗಡೆಯಿಂದ ಮತ್ತೆ ನದಿಯಿಂದ ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲೂ ನದಿ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ನಮ್ದು ಒಂದು ಆ ಕಡೆ ವೃಷಭಾವತಿ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಈ ಕಡೆಗೆ ದಕ್ಷಿಣ ಪಿನಾಕಿನಿ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕಡೆ ಆ ಕಡೆಗೆ ಅರ್ಕಾವತಿ. ಎಲ್ಲವನ್ನೂ ಕಲುಷಿತ ಮಾಡಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೀವಿ ನಾವು. ಸೊ ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ನಾನು ನೀರನ್ನ ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಂಡ್ಬಂದು ಹಾಕೋದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ, ಈಗ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿನಿಂದ ಒಂದು ಇದುವರೆಗೂ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ಲಿ ನನ್ನ ಒಂದು ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಷನ್ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಸರಿ ಇದ್ರೆ 400ರಿಂದ 500 MLD ಅಷ್ಟು ನೀರು ಆನೇಕಲ್ಲು ಮತ್ತು ಚಿಕ್ಕಬಳ್ಳಾಪುರ ಕಡೆಗೆ ಏತ ನೀರಾವರಿ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆರೆಗಳನ್ನ ತುಂಬಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಅದೇ ತರವಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಶುದ್ಧೀಕರಣವಾದ ನೀರನ್ನ ನಮ್ಮ ಕೆರೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರು ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲೇ ಒಂದು ಸರ್ಕ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಕಾವೇರಿ ನೀರನ್ನ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ 75 ರೂಪಾಯಿಗೆ ತಗೊಂಡ್ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. ಆ 95 ತಂದಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ನೀರನ್ನ ಒಂದು ಸತಿ ಅಲ್ಲ, 1 ಸತಿ, 2 ಸತಿ, 3 ಸತಿ, 4 ಸತಿ ಬಳಕೆ ಹೇಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನಾವು ವಿಚಾರಣೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಆ ವಿಚಾರಣೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಹಲವಾರು HSR ಲೇಔಟ್ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಏರಿಯಾಗಳು ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ ಫ್ಲಡ್ ಆಗ್ತಿದ್ಯೋ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮೊದಲು ಬಾವಿಗಳನ್ನ ತೋಡಿ ಆ ನೀರನ್ನ ಕೆಳಗೆ ಇಂಗಿಸುವಂತ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಸಿಟಿಸನ್ ಸಹಕಾರ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಒಂದ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ನಿಮಗೆ ಫ್ಲಡ್ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಒಂದು ಕಡೆಗೆ ಮನೆಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಫ್ಲಡ್ ಹೋಗಿ ಅವಾಗ ಬಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ನಂತರ ಮುಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಅದು ಆ ಕೆರೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮಗೆ ನೀರು ಬರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಕೆರೆಗಳಂತ ನಿಮಗೆ ಕೆಳಗೆ ಅಂತರ್ಜಲದಲ್ಲಿ ನೀರು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು, ಜೊತೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಪಕ್ಕದಲ್ಲಿರತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಕೆರೆ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಪುನಶ್ಚೇತನವಾಗಿದೆಯೋ ಇಲ್ಲವೋ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಒಂದು ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾಕಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಒಂದಡಿ ತೆಗೆದುಬಿಟ್ಟು ಮುಗೀತು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೆಲಸ ಅಂತ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ ಕೆಲವು ಸತಿ, ಅಥವಾ ಆತರ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿರುವಾಗ ನಿಮ್ಮದು ಪರ್ಕ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ ಆಗೋದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಅನುಮಾನ, ಅದು ಅಷ್ಟು ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಇದುವರೆಗೂ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಕೆಲಸಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಕಂಡು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಕೆಲವು ಸತಿ ನಮಗೆ
ಸರ್ ವೃಷಭಾವತಿ ಬಗ್ಗೆ
ವೃಷಭಾವತಿ
ಬಗ್ಗೆ
ಸರ್, ನೀವು ಬೈರಮಂಗಲ ಹೋಗಿ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಿರ್ಬಹುದು ಬಹುಶಃ. ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಹಲವಾರು ಸಂಶೋಧನೆಗಳಾಗಿವೆ. ಅದು ಸಣ್ಣ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಸಣ್ಣ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲ, ತುಂಬಾ ಒಂದು ಇದು ಹೆವಿಲಿ ಕಾಂಪ್ಲೆಕ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಆಗಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡಿದೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬಾ ಹೆವಿಯಾಗಿ ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರಿಯಲ್ ಎಫ್ಲುಯೆನ್ಸ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಅದನ್ನ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಪೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಒಪ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ? ಅದನ್ನು ಒಪ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮೇಲ್ಗಡೆ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ನಾವು ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಇನ್ನೊಂದ್ 2 ಕೆರೆಗಳು, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮೇಲ್ಗಡೆ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಶಿವಪುರ ಕೆರೆ ಮತ್ತು ನೆಲಗದ್ರನಹಳ್ಳಿ ಕೆರೆಗೆ, ಅದು ಎರಡರಲ್ಲೂ ನಾವು ಮಾತಾಡಕ್ ಹೋದಾಗ ಅವರು ಏನು ಇಲ್ಲ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಕೆರೆ ಅಂತಾನೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ನಾವು ಒಂದೇನು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ವೃಷಭಾವತಿ ಅಷ್ಟು ಇವಾಗ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ವೃಷಭಾವತಿ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬಾ ಜನ ಕೆಲಸನೂ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಮಾಮಿ ವೃಷಭಾವತಿ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಇದು ಆಗಿದೆ. ನಂತರ ಅದು ಒಂದು ಕಮಿಟಿನೂ ಆಗಿದೆ ಇವಾಗ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಪೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಬೋರ್ಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಅವರು ಅದನ್ನ ಆ ಕಮಿಟಿ ಮುಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಹೇಗೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ತ್ಯಾಜ್ಯವನ್ನ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರಿಯಲ್ ತ್ಯಾಜ್ಯವನ್ನ ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಗೆ ಅದನ್ನ ತಡೆಗಟ್ಟಬಹುದು ಅಂತ ಪಾಪ ತುಂಬಾ ಕಷ್ಟನೂ ಪಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ನೀರು ಹರಿಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಸರ್, ಆ ಮಳೆ ನೀರು ಹರಿಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಮೊದಲು ನಾಲೆಗಳು ಸರಿ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು. ಈಗ ಆ ನಾಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ನೀರು ಹರಿದಾಗ ನಾವಿಲ್ಲಿ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ನೀರನ್ನ ಕಾಣಬಹುದು. ಬಟ್ ನಾಲೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹರಿದೇ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಒಂದು ಕಡೆ ನಾವು ಮೇ ಬಿ ಟ್ರೀಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಟ್ರೀಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ನೀರನ್ನ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಬಿಡ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು. ಇವಾಗ ಏನು ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ಆ ಒಂದು ಕೋರಮಂಗಲ ಒಂದು ನಾಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಯತ್ನವನ್ನ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅಕಸ್ಮಾತ್ ಅದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಸಕ್ಸಸ್ಫುಲ್ ಆದ್ರೆ ಸರ್, ಇದನ್ನ ನೇರವಾಗಿ ನೀವು ವೃಷಭಾವತಿ ತಗೊಂಬಂದು ಕೂಡಿಸ್ಬೋದು.
Thank you, Ram sir. Thank you, Ramakant Nargandore.
Yes, sir. Yes, thank you.
I just wanted to ask Vishwanath sir and Ram sir, can we take a few more questions? Actually,
Sure.
we are already at the end of
Sure.
Since we have a lot of people who are interested in asking questions. So, is Mr. Suresh Pai there? Can we unmute Mr. Suresh Pai? Mr. Suresh? Or Mr. Nageshwar Rao? Mr. Nageshwar Rao? Usha,
No, I am Suresh Pai here.
Suresh Pai, okay.
Because I was not able to unmute because the control was with you.
Sorry, sir. Yes, please.
So, I am Suresh Pai. I am also into water conservation in Bangalore for quite some time, 3-4 months. Earlier, I was in Chennai. So one thing is that we don't have the data. We are talking about water conservation, rainwater harvesting, STP, aerators. What we feel is we don't have the data on how many apartments rainwater harvesting is done, how many apartments they have STP, and how much STP water is used. Because what I feel is STP water is a potential saving area for construction. Because the other day somebody was talking about STP water can be used in construction, because construction also takes a lot of water. Because on an average, I think the data whichever we have, we will be around 52 crores of liter it is consumed daily, which is equal to around 15,000 if you take around 25 days of construction work. And third thing is the data which is not available on aerators, water meters, and unfortunately we don't, even the apartments are not parting with the data, whether they have STP, how much they are using. But our estimate is that only 50% of the STP is water is used in the apartments. Balance is available for use. And how much it has to be used, how it has to be used, I think this Namma Bangalore has to take a call on this, how best it can be used, because there are experts who are available in Bangalore who can make use of this STP water as potable. Because there is one apartment in Belandur which is making use of the STP water for potable purposes. So that is one thing. Another thing is on that surface water. see, there are a lot of flyovers and roads which are connecting to the airport and various other places. Lot of water falls on during the rainy season on these surfaces. Can we make use of that water? I think it is not used now. So these are the issues I think we need to highlight for water
Yeah.
conservation, because
Yeah,
unless we have the data,
Yeah,
we will
yeah.
not
We
be
have.
able.
Let me answer you, Mr. Suresh Bhai. There is data available on how many meters are there and for which apartment. That data is available with the BWSSB. As to how many of the apartments have STPs, it's available with the Pollution Control Board, right? And what's the capacity of these STPs? It's available with the Pollution Control Board. So it's not that there's no data at all. There is data, but some of the data will be incomplete, right? And that nothing is being done is pretty wrong, because there's quite a lot happening. Bangalore is running one of the world's largest transfer of treated wastewater for agricultural reuse. The project, which takes treated wastewater from the BWSSB STPs and pushes it to Kolar, Chikballapur, neighboring drought-affected districts, is perhaps the second largest in the world, right? So wastewater is also being productively used in the hinterland. Wastewater is also being used to fill up lakes, Puttenhalli Lake in the south of Bangalore, Jakkur Lake, Dodabumsadra Lake, and so on and so forth. So there are so many things that are happening there. Surface runoff, the airport is one of the biggest harvesters of rainwater. Bangalore International Airport is one of the biggest harvesters of rainwater. Many things are happening. It's not really that nothing is happening. It's that we need to accumulate the data and try to push forward better examples and to replicate it more and more.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, by the way, very interesting elephant there, Mr. Suresh Bhai.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Suresh Bhai, and thank you, Mr. Vishwanath. I'd like to now call upon Avantika. Avantika has a question. So can we unmute Avantika, please? Usha?
Hello, sir. I just wanted to ask, in one of the places you had mentioned that even if it's an open area, the groundwater may not percolate inside the soil. So can you share the reasons for that?
Yeah, Avantika, I just typed it out in the answer. Perhaps you didn't see it. There's a phenomenon called crusting that happens. What happens is the top 1 inch layer of the soil tends to get compacted, right? Because of people walking on it and for other phenomena, right? So if crusting occurs, then there's absolutely no recharge. That's the reason why farmers, for example, plow their fields, right? To break up the crust so that rainwater can go into the soil. Crusting is a phenomenon which prevents percolation and infiltration.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vishwanath. Maybe I will call upon Mr. Vidyadhar. I think Mr. Vidyadhar, if he's around, can we unmute him, please?
Vidyadhar sir, you should unmute yourself, please.
Oh, okay. It's done.
Yeah,
Can you
we
hear
can
me?
hear you, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Please go
Yeah.
ahead with the
Good
question.
evening to everybody. Though I am in Mangalore, and but my mind is in Bangalore and body is physically I'm in Mangalore. That's all. Now I have a question. Other day, somebody was talking about the roads are being made concrete and there is no water percolation, this and that. I just sent a note to somebody that why not we have the sand pits every frequent distances so that water percolation takes place. One should do the concreting everywhere. Naturally, groundwater is not there. So why not we think of having water percolation, having sand pits at a particular some distance, whatever possible.
Yeah.
Why not do that?
Sure, Mr. Vidyadhar. That's an excellent idea. What happens is the road design should not only design for traffic to run on it, but also for the water that falls on it. Typically, road designs have to go with the stormwater drains together, right? And the stormwater drains can have those percolation wells or percolation pits that you rightly pointed out. Unfortunately, we have to keep pushing with the various departments which are responsible for roads to think about water and to think about groundwater and to recharge it, right? So I think slowly many MLAs and corporators are picking up the idea. Perhaps it will take some time for the PWD and for the BDA and the BBMP to pick it up. But yes, it should be done.
Even the drainage concreting is still going on. This concrete, they don't have these sand pits every, say, 10, 20, 30 feet or something.
Yeah. So it's the design, the manual for stormwater drain design does not include recharge. the manual which is made by the CPHEO and others, now the manuals are allowing for recharge. And once the manuals fall into place, then the recharge will happen. Takes a lot of Mangalore buns to be eaten before sense prevails, Mr. Vidyadhar.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vidyadhar. Thank you, Vishwanath sir. Now I call upon Ruchika. Ruchika, are you there? Can we unmute Ruchika to ask a question, please?
Ruchika, you can speak.
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead, Ruchika.
So I have questions on two fronts. One of the questions which I have is regarding how do we end up, and actually the question is all the STP, whether it is the government STP or apartment STPs, the sludge or the byproducts which are there, how are they managed?
Yeah. So this is the first front, Ruchika. You want to go on the second front or you want to wait for the second front?
I'll wait.
Okay. So in most of the STPs of the BWSSB, the sludge is being taken by farmers. Farmers are using the sludge as a soil conditioner and as a fertilizer, and sometimes it travels as much as 300 kilometers away, right? And so some of the tests that we have done in the GKVK have suggested that it's an excellent soil conditioner and that luckily there is no heavy metal beyond the permissible limit and it can be used. So daily you'll find... Yeah.
So that would be only in the case of domestic, but our STP treat mixed
No.
treatment, right? Like they take even the effluent from...
No, they don't. All the STPs of the BWSSB, and there will be eventually 36 of them, all of them only treat domestic wastewater. There's no industrial wastewater that's allowed into the STPs.
Okay, that is theoretically, but we know that that's not what is happening.
No, it is. We assume that it's the otherwise around, but there's very little industrial effluents coming into the domestic sewage treatment plants. And even if they do, the volume is so heavy, 1,440 MLD, that even if there's a couple of MLD, it doesn't actually alter the condition of the wastewater.
Okay, so that means that even though there are so many industries which are not yet doing it, it's not impacting the end process.
No, it doesn't impact the sewerage network. The industries, like in Peenya, leave it into the storm drains, unfortunately, in the night.
Yeah.
And it ends up in our valleys and our rivers and streams, but not in the STPs.
Okay, the other question which I had is at the policy level and at the level of planning. So at that level, since we understand that we are the probably only Indian city which is in such a large scale operating on plateaus and valleys without any discrimination maybe, or maybe other cities also do it, can we push for all the valleys to have a buffer zone where we do not harvest water indiscriminately through bore wells, tube wells? And can we also push for a different FAR for those valley systems so that that is not loaded?
Yeah, so Ruchika, the master plan, unfortunately, does not very much integrate with itself the hydrology of a place as well as the hydrogeology of the place, nor do the building bylaws, right? So somewhere along the master plans which will be developed in the future will have to start to take into consideration both surface water flows and groundwater flows, and will have to manage aquifers and lakes and streams much better. Yes, that will have to be done.
So the new one which is going to be currently underway, if we can already push as citizens for it and say that this is a scientific way to go forward before it even comes as a draft in our face.
Yeah.
Is there a way we can do that?
Ruchika, aap aage badho, hum tumhare saath hain.
Okay.
Go ahead, we'll be with you. For sure, yeah. There's so many things to be done in the city. And Ruchika, it's good that you're interested in it. Come forward, and I'm sure that NBF and others will be there with you to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, Ashley.
Yeah, thanks, Ruchika. Thanks, Vishwanath sir, for getting into. Can we, in the interest of time, can we take three questions more, sir? Ramprasad sir and Vishwanath sir.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'd like to call upon Siddharth. Is Siddharth there? Can we unmute him? You can also look at Santosh Pawar. He has a question. Mr. Santosh Pawar.
Yeah, Santosh Pawar is there.
Okay.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah, I'm audible, sir.
Yes, Santosh. Please go ahead.
First I would like to thanks to Nama Bangalore Foundations and our all panelists. It's a great discussion. Getting a lot of insights from these lectures. So I don't have any questions, but I just want to share my experience and my observations, because till now we have discussed on Bangalore historic positions from historical to at present. Because my points is while we are discussing on surface waters in our areas, so we need to focus also on groundwater and aquifer-based water management discussion. Because in Bengaluru areas, most of our agriculture sectors are depends on groundwaters, because more than 90% farmers are irrigating taking water from ground deep waters. So this is one of the major threats, and this is one of the big problems in our society, because the supply side is important, but demand side is also very important, because we are mostly in our country most of time watershed development in India has been following the ridge to valley approach, which consider ridge area as a groundwater recharge zones, and valley portions as groundwater discharge areas and the discharge areas. But here, major important thing is in discharge areas, because the demand side and demand side management is very important in this part. Second thing is groundwater, aquifer-based groundwater management is the one of the important. Third one is aquifer and agriculture, and aquifer and watersheds, and aquifers and groundwater quality. These are the basic important points. We need to focus on that points for groundwater and surface waters.
Yeah, Santosh. So that's already being done in certain ways. Aquifer mapping, for example, happened with something called Participatory Groundwater Management Plan, which looked at about 80 square kilometers on Sarjapura Road, where with the help of the community, aquifer-based understandings were developed and aquifer-based plans were developed, right? The case of Rainbow Drive, which I showed in my presentation, was clearly a case of demand management with aquifer and communitization of groundwater, not privatization of groundwater, but making it a community resource, right? So those steps need to be ramped up further, and we need to take it further, because groundwater is crucial for Bangalore survival. There are two ways we can deal with groundwater. One is to increase supply and maintain quality, and the second is to put a cap on demand. Both these would be necessary, for which we need the right institutions. You're absolutely right. That's the way to go forward. Thanks.
And
Thanks, Santosh.
here with regarding to agriculture, Santosh, with regarding to agriculture, what you told, maybe Bangalore is the first city which has been sending its treated water to not from ridge to valley, rather from a valley to the upper ridge areas, and has been sending it to Anekal, Chikballapur, which is on the upper region, and trying to see that those lakes are filled with treated water, pumped from here onto the top, or maybe to Anekal also, where we are pumping up. And most of those areas are agriculture areas which are doing this one. Maybe you should study more on our, the plans that Bangalore has done, which no other state or no other city has been able to do. This is the second largest, as Vishwanath sir has been telling, that we have been doing. We as Bangaloreans are very, very proud of that, what we have done on this kind of things, wherein treated water is being sent to the, upper areas where agriculture is the most important. And we have disproved certain things that maybe others are trying to do and trying to prove, and we as Bangaloreans are a little bit much more prouder of those kind of things, which no other city has ever even tried or trying to do certain things. So with that one, that Bangalore city has not thought of it only itself, but also has thought about its neighboring district and other things which are primarily agriculture in nature. And we have looks like, as Bangaloreans, they have helped those people to sustain and to go further, which have been a very drought hit areas. So let us give a clap to our Bangaloreans also for this.
Sure. Because what I observed, because in our areas, whatever I observed in our areas, the sorry.
No. What we have few more people to ask. We're waiting in queue. So I think we'll keep it brief, and then since it's already we are extended the time. I think in the interest of time, we'll have the others also come in. Can I ask? Thank you, Santosh, and thank you, Vishnu sir and Ram sir for the thing. I'll just ask Mr. Siddharth. Is Mr. Siddharth there?
Oh, he's not there.
Oh yeah, and Rajshri.
Oh, just,
Is Rajshri.
she too has logged out.
Okay. Ramesh Dutt. Sir, Ramesh Dutt. If he's around
Yeah,
in the
he's
interest of
there,
time.
he's there.
Okay, then we'll ask Ramesh Dutt sir to ask his query. Can we
Sir,
unmute
can
him?
you please unmute, sir? Yeah.
My problem is the bore wells have been dug with the powers taken from the corporator to alleviate the water supply. But this groundwater taken and just gets mixed up with the treated water. In what the amount of money that we are spending on cleaning the water and then chlorinating the water is all get wasted with this. Can some policy be made on that?
Okay, today also I spoke to terms of men. But now I go a little slow because
Probably
Mr.
Mr. Vishwanath will be in a position to answer this.
Yeah. So Usha, Rajshri is here and she wants.
Yes, sir. We'll call her out. We'll call her name.
So Mr. Ramesh Dutt, so actually
Wait
it's not. I'm sorry, there's some other.
Can everybody unmute? Mute themselves.
Mute
please?
yourselves.
Somebody, mute yourselves, please.
Yeah. It's a Zoom world where we have to learn. Okay, Mr. Ramesh, that's absolutely true that the borewell which is going to be linked to the pipe network, the water quality has to be checked and it has to be made sure that there's no contaminant in it, that it meets drinking water standards before it's linked to the pipe network, right? So if the borewells are run by the BWSSB, then that checking is done. But if it's not run by the BWSSB, then that checking unfortunately does not happen. And so therefore, the BWSSB has to take more responsibility for these borewells. Yeah. And that's a gray zone, Mr. Ramesh, completely right.
Yeah, and my second question is this. In ISRO, there is, in Sanjay Nagar, there is a lake. All the catchment area that is coming in, the water is not being freely allowed inside.
Yeah.
And that well is getting dried.
Right.
But is there anything can be done for that? Because
the ISRO building itself is on a lake. The lake was drained and ISRO was put there. And then we do satellite research to find out where water is, right? So there's a huge problem at the beginning itself. Now to rectify and remedy that would mean that the ISRO would tend to get flooded as much as possible. So that needs to be avoided. Therefore, they're taking away the water. So this is the tragedy with Bangalore, with many places, with many of our lakes, right?
No, but something has been, because crores of rupees have been spent every year by BBMP to get the water submerged areas cleaned up.
See, if you occupy a lake bed, then you have to spend crores of rupees every year to clean up and to make sure that areas are not submerged, right? So that's a double foolishness that we have indulged in from the 70s and 80s. Hopefully, we will not continue it in the future, Mr. Ramesh Dutt.
Ramesh Dutt, sir, one of my suggestion would be that on the upper areas where the water is coming and flooding into the ISRO, which is actually a lake, we should put a lot of recharge wells so that those recharge wells push the water into the ground so that ISRO doesn't get, and ISRO should sponsor this program. That all of Sanjay Nagar and the nearby areas, they should put recharge wells minimum, according to me, it should be minimum 2,000 recharge wells so that they don't get flooded themselves.
Correct.
So
That's
you can please suggest ISRO that they should sponsor under their CSR and see to it that they dig at least 2,000 recharge wells with the Boviar Manwater community. So maybe they should do that so that the water is caught and pushed into the ground on the upper areas itself so that they don't get into trouble.
Correct.
That's a good idea. That I think we should take it up with the respective welfare associations.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ramesh Dutt, sir. Yeah, thank you. I think we'll go on to the last question, maybe from Ms. Rajashri. If Rajashri is
Hi.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Please go.
I don't have too many questions, just one actually, but I want to thank for, being a part of this or being allowed to actually listen to such learned people and who have been doing such fantastic work. I really I think they are a powerhouse of information on this water and water management, the job they've been doing. I mean, Sir Vishwanath and Sir Ram Prasad. I mean, congratulations to you guys. I don't know so much about you, but I think it's fantastic. My only question is, how can we spread this information to normal residents who live in Bangalore, so they are more conscious about, you know, water conservation and what they can do to, you know, to contribute their little bit. I've been associated with BWSSB, so I've been trying to understand and do my bit. I'm involved as a Jala Senani and Jala Purushi with BWSSB, but I feel people are not conscious. And what can we do to create more awareness? That's the question that I have, and reduce the commercialization of borewells.
So thanks for those kind words, Ms. Rajshri. I think the beard and long hair has done its job. We have successfully managed to convince you that we are intellectuals and we know a lot. But jokes apart, we've set up a small website. It's called bengaluru.urbanwaters.in. It's a sort of a public information website where we've put together a whole bunch of information, right? Even from comics and posters for children in Kannada and English to small videos and so many other things about the data and information around Bangalore and its waters. Perhaps you could use that and spread the word.
Okay.
One of the things that I would suggest to you is that if you're able to pick some government schools and be able to engage with them, that once this COVID mess is down, and then also engage with students in colleges, I'm sure they'd be happy to receive you, and a 45-minute, 1-hour session would be of great use, and everybody, it's more hands on deck for this journey of sustainable water use in Bangalore. Yeah, so welcome to use this resource and also to be a propagator.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I will, but I might need your expertise.
You're welcome. You can get to us though. My colleagues are also there. Ram is also part of this group. And so we're all there as bengaluru.urbanwaters.in. You send in a message and some of us will do our best.
And I have put my personal number also on the chat box. If anybody wants to call me up and other things, do call us, call me up. And, you know, we as a group will surely help out anybody whoever wants to, you know, do recharge wells or to see to it that, you know, they want to do some, you know, contribution towards water conservation or towards, you know, sustainable water futures and other things. Do call us up and we are ready to, you know, collaborate with you and have discussions and maybe take it forward from there. You know, how each citizen can be part of, you know, a story of Bangalore, which we as Bangaloreans will be proud about.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rajshri. And I think we come to the close of the webinar, and I think I'll take this time off to actually thank Vishwanath sir and Ram Prasad sir for all their beautiful insights, and also for remodeling and, you know, water and equitable maybe distribution of water in Bangalore city. Thank you all once again, and thanks to all the participants with their wonderful questions and the lovely sessions that we had. I hope we will all be part of, you know, this conservation, this thing, and equally water distribution in Bangalore city. Thank you all once again. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.